Most people live in a fantasy believing they can avoid conflict, please everyone, stay neutral, and somehow still win. But this illusion is the root of their suffering. Today, we break that illusion because in a world that pushes, you either push back or you collapse. There is a myth that circulates quietly through society, whispered like some comforting philosophy. The idea that you can walk through life untouched, unpressured, and unbothered. That you can remain in the middle, neutral, agreeable, balanced, and somehow avoid the chaos that defines human existence. But this belief is not wisdom. It is a refuge for the unprepared. The middle path, as most people imagine it, is not a sanctuary. It is a trap designed by fear, held together by hesitation, and shattered the moment reality applies even the slightest pressure. People cling to this illusion because it feels safe. It promises that if they avoid conflict, conflict will avoid them. It tells them that if they don't take sides, no one will view them as a threat. It convinces them that if they're nice to everyone, the world will return the favor. But reality does not reward neutrality, it consumes it. The world does not respect those who try to stand in the center. It tests them, pushes them, and eventually exposes the weakness they hoped to hide. In every era, in every nation, in every personal struggle, this illusion has destroyed more people than war, illness, or poverty. Why? Because it tempts a person to abandon the very thing that ensures survival, decisiveness. The middle path seduces people into thinking they can avoid choosing, avoid committing, avoid acting. But when you refuse to choose your position, someone else chooses it for you. When you refuse to act, circumstances act upon you. When you stay in the middle, you are not safe. You are simply unclaimed, unaligned, and undefended. Consider how power operates. Power respects those who take a clear stance. Whether it is loved or feared is irrelevant. The only unforgivable position in the realm of power is uncertainty. A person who tries to remain in the middle becomes available to be used by both sides, but trusted by neither. They become the tool that each faction picks up and discards at its convenience. And when the conflict ends, when the dust settles and winners emerge, those who attempted to remain neutral are the first to be punished. Because both sides remember, this is the one who tried to survive without loyalty, without conviction, without risk. History is filled with examples. Leaders who refused to take sides were erased by those who did. Allies turned on neutral nations, not because they were enemies, but because they were convenient targets. Even in personal relationships, the one who refuses to confront issues or express boundaries eventually becomes the person everyone steps on. The middle is not a place of balance. It is a place of vulnerability. You may think you can live quietly without offending anyone, without making enemies. But do you know what happens to someone who avoids making enemies? They avoid making allies as well. They avoid building respect. They avoid establishing identity. The person in the middle becomes a ghost present, but powerless, visible, but irrelevant. And life is ruthless toward those who fade into the background, because the world is shaped by people who choose, who act, who dare. Pressure reveals this truth with merciless clarity. When pressure comes, and it always comes, it squeezes the middle until it breaks. A person who has lived in avoidance is not prepared for confrontation. A person who has hidden from decisions is not prepared for consequences. A person who has never chosen a side is not prepared to stand for one. They crack under stress because they have spent their lives trying to avoid the very thing that builds strength, friction. People often confuse peace with weakness. They believe that by avoiding extremes, they are enlightened. But the middle path has never been the path of the strong. Peace achieved through balance is noble. Peace achieved through fear is collapse waiting to happen. The middle path is only powerful when chosen from a position of strength, not when used as a hiding place from responsibility. A person who truly understands life does not cling to the middle. They navigate it strategically. They know when to step forward, when to pull back, when to strike, when to remain silent. They move with intention, not avoidance. They choose the middle only when it benefits them, not because they fear choosing anything else. But the average person does not do this. The average person uses the middle as a shield. They say, "I don't want trouble." But trouble does not need permission to find them. They say, "I don't want to choose." But life does not wait for them to decide. In truth, there is no safe zone, no neutral space where the world leaves you untouched. You are either shaped by life or you shape it. You are either acted upon or you act. You either break or you become the kind of person who cannot be broken. In the realm of power, there is a law so ancient, so unforgiving, that even kings trembled beneath it. The world bows to the decisive and devours the hesitant. Power does not care about your intentions. It does not care about how pure your heart is, or how balanced your spirit feels. Power responds only to action, clear, deliberate, and confident action. And the moment you hesitate, the moment you pause to second, guess yourself, the opportunity you desired passes into the hands of someone who acted without waiting for certainty. People imagine that caution protects them, but hesitation is not caution. Hesitation is fear pretending to be wisdom. True caution is preparation. True caution is strategy. Hesitation is the silent killer that whispers, "What if you're wrong?" while someone else asks, "What if I'm right?" and moves forward. That one step taken boldly reshapes outcomes more than 1,000 cautious thoughts ever could. Look closely at how influence works. A person who makes decisions, whether good or bad, commands attention. Their conviction draws followers. Their clarity inspires confidence. Even their mistakes earn respect, because mistakes can be forgiven when courage is evident. But a hesitant person, someone who waits endlessly for a perfect moment that never arrives, earns nothing. Not trust, not loyalty, not control. People drift away from those who cannot decide. They sense instability, a wobbling structure ready to collapse under the slightest pressure. Life is a battlefield disguised as a marketplace, a court, a conversation, a relationship. And in every interaction, someone must take the lead. Someone must say yes or no, move forward or hold the line. Most people wait for the other to decide, thinking it makes them polite or agreeable. But in truth, it makes them replaceable. The world sees them as passengers instead of drivers, as responders instead of initiators. A person who waits to see what others will do is a person who quickly disappears into the background of their own life. Machiavelli understood this well. He wrote that fortune favors the bold not because boldness guarantees success, but because fortune respects courage. When you act decisively, you create momentum, you shape the environment, you set terms, you force others to react to you instead of you reacting to them. And the one who forces reactions controls the board. People often say, "I don't want to make the wrong choice," as if avoiding choice is safer. But avoiding choice is the most dangerous choice of all. When you refuse to pick a direction, time picks one for you. Circumstances move without your consent. Others make decisions that affect your life, while you remain silent. Inaction does not preserve stability. It forfeits autonomy. Think about how people treat leaders versus followers. A leader is not defined by superiority or intelligence. A leader is simply the one who decides first. Even in a group of equals, the person who says, "This is what we're doing," becomes the reference point for everyone else. They might be challenged, questioned, or debated, but they are still the axis around which the discussion moves. Meanwhile, the hesitant person becomes a spectator in moments where they could have shaped the outcome. Decisiveness builds credibility. People trust the one who commits. They trust the one who takes responsibility. Even if the path proves difficult, they trust the person who said, "We move now," more than the one who said, "Let's wait and see," because waiting breeds uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds fear. A decisive leader removes fear by providing direction. This applies to every arena of life. Careers, relationships, opportunities, negotiations. Confidence is magnetic. Clarity is powerful. But hesitation is interpreted as lack of belief, lack of competence, lack of strength. And the world rarely hands power to someone who appears unsure whether they deserve it. Understand something essential. Decisiveness is not recklessness. It is the ability to evaluate quickly, commit fully, and adapt swiftly. The decisive person does not stand still and hope circumstances become perfect. They move with what they have, they adjust along the way, they create advantage out of motion. The hesitant person, however, waits for the stars to align, not realizing that stars are indifferent to their hopes. In negotiations, the first clear offer shapes the conversation. In conflict, the first bold move breaks the stalemate. In ambition, the first step separates the dreamers from the contenders. Power begins the moment you stop waiting for permission. Because no one ever offers permission freely. It is seized by those who act before others even realize a decision needed to be made. The truth is simple. You cannot lead, win, or survive at the highest level if hesitation governs your actions. The world rewards those who step forward while others stand frozen. The decisive carve paths where none existed. The hesitant are left wandering the trails carved by others. When people hear the word ruthless, they recoil. They imagine cruelty, coldness, the destruction of others for personal gain. But this misconception blinds them to the true meaning of the word. Ruthlessness, in its purest form, is not about harming others. It is about refusing to harm yourself through indecision, confusion, or misplaced sympathy. It is the art of protecting your purpose with unwavering clarity, even when the world pressures you to bend. Most people fail not because they are weak in strength, but because they are weak in clarity. They want to progress without discomfort, to grow without sacrifice, to succeed without saying no. They try to satisfy everyone, to please every voice, to consider every opinion, and in the process, they lose themselves. When you lack clarity, you become a hostage to the expectations of others. Every request pulls you in a different direction. Every criticism derails your focus. Every distraction steals your time. Without clarity, you live your life in fragments, scattered across the demands of people who would replace you the moment you stop serving them. This is why ruthlessness becomes essential, not to harm but to define, not to crush others but to protect what matters. Ruthlessness is the courage to set boundaries that cannot be negotiated, diluted, or manipulated. It is the willingness to remove what weakens you, even when that thing once brought you comfort. It is the discipline to move forward without seeking approval from those who do not walk your path. Cruelty is joy in suffering. Ruthlessness is commitment to purpose. The two are nothing alike. Cruelty is emotional. Ruthlessness is strategic. Cruelty seeks to destroy others. Ruthlessness seeks to eliminate obstacles. Those obstacles may be habits, relationships, environments, or beliefs, but the target is never random. It is always the thing that stands between you and who you must become. Throughout history, the individuals who achieved lasting power were not the ones who acted out of malice, but the ones who possessed unshakable clarity. They knew that a leader who tries to be endlessly accommodating eventually becomes ineffective. They understood that personal growth demands subtraction before addition. You cannot build strength while holding on to weakness. You cannot rise while carrying what anchors you. Ruthlessness is simply the refusal to negotiate with anything that drags you backward. People often mistake hesitation for kindness. They say, "I don't want to hurt anyone," but in truth, they are afraid of being judged. They avoid making hard decisions not because of compassion, but because of insecurity. They tell themselves they are being gentle, when in reality they are preserving their own discomfort. True compassion is honest. True compassion is firm. True compassion does not allow you to sacrifice your future to protect someone else's opinion. Imagine a gardener tending to a growing tree. If he refuses to cut dead branches because he feels bad for the tree, the rot spreads. The entire structure weakens. The tree grows distorted, burdened by pieces that no longer serve it. Pruning is not cruelty. It is necessary for survival. So it is with life. So it is with ambition. You must prune what no longer serves you. You must cut what hinders your growth. Ruthlessness is the willingness to do this without apology, because you understand the cost of keeping what should have been released. This is the clarity most people avoid. Clarity forces you to confront reality. It demands that you see people for who they are, not who you wish they were. It forces you to recognize your own flaws, your own procrastination, your own habits that sabotage your potential. Clarity is uncomfortable because it reveals the truth, and the truth often exposes the excuses we hide behind. But once you embrace clarity, you begin to live differently. Decisions become easier because you know what matters. Distractions lose their power because your focus sharpens. The noise of the world becomes irrelevant because you no longer need validation. You move with purpose, you speak with intention, you act without hesitation. This is the essence of ruthlessness, a mind so clear that doubt cannot penetrate it, a heart so disciplined that fear cannot derail it. Ruthlessness means closing the doors that must remain closed. It means ignoring opinions that do not come from those who share your vision. It means removing yourself from environments that diminish you. It means saying no when the world demands yes. It means protecting your time as if your life depended on it, because it does. It means choosing long-term strength over short-term comfort. It means letting go of the familiar so you can step into the necessary. Those who misunderstand ruthlessness spend their lives trapped by obligations that were never theirs to carry. They stay in relationships that drain them. They tolerate habits that destroy them. They accept treatment that belittles them. All because they fear being perceived as harsh. But the world does not reward the endlessly accommodating. It rewards the person who knows exactly who they are, what they want, and what they refuse to tolerate. There is a moment in every human life when the world stops being gentle, when comfort fades, when certainty cracks, when familiar structures fall away. It is in this moment, when pressure tightens around you like an iron grip, that your true nature is revealed. Not the nature you show to others, not the persona you polish for approval, but the core of who you are when everything grows heavy. Pressure is the ultimate judge. It exposes the truth with a clarity no teacher, no parent, no mentor can offer. Under pressure, you learn whether you are clay or steel. Most people imagine they are strong until the test arrives. They speak proudly about resilience in times of calm. They promise themselves they will rise when difficulty comes. But when life presses them, when plans collapse, when betrayal strikes, when choices carry consequences, they discover that strength is not a declaration. Strength is a threshold, and each person's threshold is different. Pressure does not lie. Pressure does not flatter. Pressure unmasks. Why does pressure matter so much? Because pressure is the environment where growth demands sacrifice, where every decision carries weight, where every weakness becomes a liability. Pressure is where people either transform or break, and the breaking is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle. A small surrender, a small compromise, a small retreat from responsibility. Pressure rarely shatters a person all at once. It erodes them slowly, breaking them grain by grain until nothing remains but excuses. You have seen it before. The talented person who folds when expectations rise. the confident speaker who becomes silent when challenged, the ambitious dreamer who freezes when action becomes necessary. These individuals are not incapable. They are untested. Their threshold for pressure is low, and so their potential remains unused. The world does not carve paths for those who crumble. It only carves deeper trenches for them to fall into. But the person with a high threshold for pressure operates differently. They do not escape hardship, they absorb it. They do not break under weight, they adapt to it. They become sharper, clearer, more disciplined. Pressure does not suffocate them, it conditions them. They understand that discomfort is not a signal to retreat but a sign of transformation, that obstacles are not walls but invitations, that conflict is not a threat but a forge. The truth no one wants to hear is this: pressure is the price of power. There is no version of success, influence, or excellence that comes without it. Pressure is the currency you must pay. Every step forward demands more strength. Every level reached demands a greater threshold. Those who rise simply tolerate more than those who fall. They endure where others collapse. They persist where others flee. But endurance alone is not the point. Pressure isn't about tolerating pain for the sake of pain. It's about discovering who you become in the process. When pressure builds, you learn how to make decisions when emotions surge. You learn how to maintain clarity when chaos surrounds you. You learn how to stay disciplined when every instinct begs for escape. Pressure trains your mind to operate under strain, to keep its shape when the world tries to twist it. Most people live their lives avoiding these moments. They avoid confrontation, not realizing that avoidance weakens their capacity. They avoid responsibility, not realizing that responsibility strengthens their threshold. They avoid failure, not realizing that failure teaches them how to carry weight. The one who avoids pressure spends life in fragile comfort, shattering at the slightest inconvenience. But the one who confronts pressure builds a kind of internal armor no external force can pierce. They become someone whose presence alone communicates resilience. Someone who cannot be manipulated by fear. Someone who cannot be controlled by chaos. Someone who cannot be broken by circumstance. Pressure is not merely a test, it is also a mirror. It reflects your preparation. It reveals where you have been honest with yourself and where you've been lying. When pressure exposes a fracture within you, it is not there to humiliate you. It is there to illuminate the exact place you must strengthen. Your fears reveal themselves. Your doubts rise to the surface. Your insecurities scream for escape. But this exposure is not the enemy. This exposure is the invitation to evolve. Every powerful individual, every influential leader, every unstoppable force you admire, is simply a person who raised their threshold for pressure higher than those around them. They did not become extraordinary because life spared them hardship. They became extraordinary because hardship shaped them. They learned to breathe where others suffocated. They learned to think where others panicked. They learned to act where others froze. Pressure does not break everyone. It only breaks those who enter unprepared, unwilling, or unaware of what lies within them. But the ones who rise under pressure understand something essential. Strength is not granted. It is forged. Potential is not inherited, it is developed, and your fate is not determined by the luck you receive, but by the weight you can carry. So now the illusion has been stripped away. You have seen that the middle path is not safety but surrender, that hesitation is not wisdom but the quiet thief of power. You understand that ruthlessness is not cruelty. It is the clarity required to guard your purpose. And you know that pressure is the crucible where your fate is decided, where you either collapse into the shape the world forces upon you, or rise into the form you choose for yourself. You are no longer allowed the comfort of pretending you don't know. The truth stands before you, unmistakable, undeniable. You either break or you become someone who cannot be broken.